Okay. Again, welcome to everybody that's joining this live or on the recorded session. First, let me say our thoughts and prayers go out to all of the people affected by the hurricane over the last couple of days, those that are still without power. Our thoughts, and prayers are with you. As you listen to this, just know that you were in our thoughts. This is the first time we've attempted this, and the training team is actually affected by the hurricane. One of them, Nita Hinckley, is without power, and it looks like it's going to probably be the middle of next week before her power is restored. She's down in Thomasville, Georgia, so she's not online with us at the moment. She may try to call in here later, but with no power, it's kind of hard to keep a phone juiced up or telephone or anything else. Jesse Peavy is also I think on a phone because all of their internet and everything is not there in Blakely County, so he's not on video here. And Tammy Silvers, she's also one of the other trainers, but she's not. I don't think she was affected by the hurricane. She happens to be out in Colorado expecting her first grandchild at any moment. So the others of the team, I forgot, Sandy Metz, she's actually presenting at the social studies conference that's going on yesterday and today. So she may be able to call in a little bit in between sessions or something, but as of right now, she's presenting over in Athens at the social studies conference. We do have several of the trainers here online, and you see our pretty videos. We thought we would give you the opportunity to see what our offices look like. Some of you guys ask me occasionally when I'll be in the office. Well, I'm in the office. This is my office. So when you hear me talk about being in my office, this is my recliner sitting right here with my laptop in front of me doing some work. My other office happens to be a white Lexus that I drive so much down the road. It's going to take just a minute or so to let the other trainers here introduce themselves to you and tell you a little bit about what we have coming up in a week or so. So, Sabine, on my screen, you're top left, so we'll just let you go ahead and get started, Sabine, if you will.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure I unmuted myself as well. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sabine ONeill. That's easily pronounced if you think of how you've been, Sabine. That's the easiest way for me to introduce myself to people who are not familiar with my name. I am actually with Godot, but I don't work out of Atlanta either. As you can see, Hubert's not working out of Atlanta. We're all home-based. Home for me is Richmond Hill, and that means that I cover Southeast Georgia. Just to give you an idea of my territory coverage, from home, I will cover all the way up to Burke County, the Burke and Johnson County. That's about as far northwest as I go. I'll go west out to Dublin, which puts me spending a lot of time on Interstate 16. That's why sometimes I have become known as the Queen of 16 because I spend a lot of time on 16. And then I cover then territory south to the Camden, so the Florida border. So that's my area. And Hubert wanted us to reach out and let you all know, give you an idea of a little bit of where we're scheduled to be within the next couple of months. So I've pulled up my calendar. I can tell you that at this point in time, between the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be in Glynn County. I'll be in Bryan County. I'll also be in Tatnall County and Savannah-Chatham School District. After that, I'll spend a week in Vidalia City. I've been fortunate enough to get Vidalia City to ask me to come in and train all their schools. For those of you who are not that familiar with Vidalia City, they have 4 schools, primary, elementary, middle school, and high school. And I've been going in on a regular basis, on a monthly basis actually, and for that full week, those 4 days during the week, I've been assigned to go to each one of the schools and work on the different SLDS sessions that we offer. So next week or the week after that, I will spend most of that time in Vidalia City. And then after that, the last week of October into the Halloween period, I will be in Chatham. I will be in, in the Savannah area in Emmanuel County. And then Hubert and I will be doing a presentation in Appling County. So as you can see, we're kind of, we go all over the place when we're based on our territory. We do a lot of traveling, but that's part of the job. That's part of what we love. And we just want to let you know that we're here to help. If you need us at your schools, you have questions about SLDS, you're trying to get a hold of Hubert, you can't do that, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. I mean, although we're all assigned to a territory, we're not territorial in the sense that if we get an email from somebody outside of the territory, we're certainly happy to help in any way we can. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I apologize. I had muted myself. Thanks, Sabine. John?
Good morning, everyone. Well, my name is John MacDonald. The area that I cover in training kind of starts out with Beaufort City and into Gwinnett, DeKalb County, Henry County, Clayton County, Spalding, Buds County, and pardon me if I exclude some of them. So I pretty much have a lot of the big counties, probably have the most teachers and schools of anybody else. But of course, the fun part is trying to navigate the Atlanta traffic areas. So I'm always finding different ways of getting to Henry County, and there's some pretty drives. But anyway, my background is from the classroom, and DeKalb County, one of my counties, is where I spent 37 years teaching, starting at Chamblee High School and ending up at Dunwoody High School. Was a French teacher. Also worked with the Georgia Virtual School, which is how I ended up kind of falling into this job, which I really love doing. Some of the trainings I have coming up, I usually don't get a lot of trainings in Gwinnett County, but I actually have a few coming up. Hall Middle School, which is down the road from where I live, because I live in Gwinnett in the Lawrenceville-Swanee area. Also New Life Academy, which is a public charter. Brookhaven Innovations, another charter. So we've had a couple of new charter schools starting up that are in the areas that I work with and working with. I usually get a lot of trainings in DeKalb County, Clayton County. I just haven't had any recently on my calendar there. But basically, that's the area I work in, and I'm just real excited to have so many of you. I'm looking at 54 attendees already that have come in, so this is great to have you all with us this morning.
Thanks, John. And our newest trainer, serving up in the north part of the state, is Celeste Martin. Dr. Martin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, good morning, and I would like to echo the same sentiment that we appreciate your attendance. I do live in Chatsworth, Georgia, and most recently I was employed with the Dalton City School District. I was principal at Brookwood Elementary School prior to taking this job. So I've worked as a teacher and administrator, and I just look forward to serving you how best that I can do that. Since I am new and I haven't traveled to all the locations in my territory, I picked up the map so that I could speak accurately about this. But I am serving from the northwest corner of Georgia, which is Dade County, south down to Floyd and Rome City, and then over east to Rabun County and Habersham County. So if you are in that territory, I am your person, and I would love to connect with you. In the next few weeks, I was looking, because I'm still in a training phase myself, and I'm transitioning over to a little bit of independence. Some trainings I'm attending with other trainers, and then some I am leading myself. But in the next few weeks, I will be in the Dalton area, there were some previously scheduled trainings there. So I'm going to be at Park Creek Elementary and Dalton Middle School and Blue Ridge Elementary. There's also going to be some training that I'll be attending down in Floyd at Pepperell High School and at the Floyd Board of Ed. Also a session over in Hall County, Lumpkin County. I've had some gracious invites from the folks in Lumpkin County, and I really appreciate that. And then I'll be doing some trainings at North Georgia RESA. So thank you.
I have to just email him. I'm not going to get it.
Thanks, Celeste. And again, for those that have just come in recently, please try to mute your phone unless you're asking a question or something. We do appreciate that. There's so many people online that it would be extremely noisy if everybody had their phone lines open. So we appreciate that. Now, we are going to, the biggest part of this venture is to recognize the fact that the connection between you guys, the data people from all over the state, into how you can help us with SLDS, but then hopefully how SLDS can help you guys in your day-to-day data work. We strongly appreciate the efforts that all of the data people around the state are doing to provide accurate, regular frequency of student class file, because hopefully all of you guys realize that is what really drives SLDS from a teacher perspective specifically, and also from an administrative perspective. But without a student class file, without a current student class file, teachers, when we go into a classroom or something, teachers will be asking us, well, Johnny showed up, 3 days ago, but I don't see Johnny on SLDS. Well, if we don't have a current student class file hasn't been sent up, then Johnny's not going to be there or something. So we do appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing from the perspective of getting your folks up to speed and getting all your data reporting done. We just remind you, this is not rehearsed, and we don't have a script that I'm trying to follow or anything. I do have some things that I want to cover with you, but a lot of this is designed for you guys so that you can, if you have questions or if you have something you want to ask, comment about, or anything, then we want you to feel free and feel able to ask those things. One of the things I would like to get everyone to talk, thanks, Josh, and that is on the agenda. I saw a question from Josh, and we are going to cover that. One of the first things I would like to mention to you is about another thing about the student class file. Not everyone's doing this, and I don't know how often that some districts are doing this, but unfortunately, it seems like some districts are deleting their student class file from the data collections window. And I remember back in my days when I was when I was working in Newton County and in Walton County, occasionally when I'm cleaning up errors, I would delete data so I could send up a new file. That's still all okay, but let me encourage you guys, if you delete student class file data, send one up that same day, because if you do not have a student class file uploaded, then when the nightly process runs, it will appear like you have just canceled school, and all of your teacher schedules will go over to inactive. So if you do delete it, if you feel like you have to delete student class file, just try to make sure you get a new file up there that same day, so that the overnight process doesn't think that you have closed school, fired all your teachers, withdrew all your students, because if not, then all of your teacher schedules will go over to inactive. Now, eventually that'll all get cleaned up, but it might take 3 or 4 or 5 days. But in the meantime, you know, your teachers are wondering, well, what happened to all my students? What happened to these students? What happened to, so just encouraging you, if you do delete all of your student class files, just make sure that you get another file, a refresh file up there that day, okay? So just, and if you have questions about that, holler at me or Jesse or something, holler at one of us, you know, after the fact, or after this phone call, after this conference call, all right? And I think Jesse's on the phone, so he's monitoring now the chat box, so I don't have to look at it that frequently, and he's going to interject anytime there's something that pops up that we need to look at there. So so if you have questions, put them in the chat box, you know, unmute your phone and jump in on here or something, then we'll move on. Another item that I wanted to just make you guys aware of, and again, let me just say how impressed I am that we have so many callers on the line here. But MAP and Renaissance learning data. I know many times when we're out training, we talk about local assessments. That's MAP and Renaissance learning, Star Reader, Star Math, and early literacy. Just in case you guys aren't aware of this, that data is not automatically turned on for your district. A district has to go through a sharing process. And we have instructions, and if your district uses MAP, that the measure of academic progress from the company called NWEA, or if you use Renaissance Learning, Star Reader, Star Math, or Early Literacy, you can have that data brought into SLDS so that your teachers can see the formative assessments right there alongside of the summative assessments. But that doesn't get there automatically just because you use it. Your district has to sign agreements, MOUs with the various companies, NWEA or Renaissance Learning, to get that data into SLDS. Now, we do work with the vendors after you do the MOUs, and the vendors do send us the data automatically once you sign up for that. But there is a process that the district has to go through. Renaissance Learning there has to be certain setups for it, has to be certain setups for NWEA, but generally that's not real difficult, but that's the hardest part. Once that's done, then the uploads from the vendors, that is automatic. Let me just kind of remind you, those that are using it, and you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, we took a MAP test last week and nothing's showing up. Renaissance Learning sends us data every night. MAP sends us the data in a 2-week cycle. Every 2 weeks, they send us, so the data is refreshed in MAP every 2 weeks. So if you took it last week, it may be another week before it shows up. So depending on the interval of time that you send that you take the test, whether it's in that how close it is to that cycle of the end of that 2-week cycle. So just be aware of that and know that's happening. We would love to work with some other vendors. We have been talking, kind of talks have slowed down some. We haven't gotten any new status updates from HMH, which is the reading inventory and the math inventory. That talks have kind of stalled a little bit there. So if you have any push with them, we'd love to have your input there, or iReady, or any other vendors that you have. You guys are the ones that have the control over them because you're the ones that pay these vendors. The state does not have a contract with any of those other third-party vendors. So if your district does use a different company, reach out to them if they're if they would be of interest to see what's involved there. The first place for them to call is contact me, and then I'll get them set up with the right person at DOE to start working through that. So you can just give them my phone number, my email address, and we'll try to help work through there. Cool. Again, if you have any questions about that, just unmute your phone or put it in the chat box. The next thing I wanted to mention to you is a new option, and I'm going to try and see if I can pull this up. I'm going to try to share my screen for just a second. Let's see here if I get the right one done. I'm hoping you got me this one done. Okay. Well, let me just share my whole screen. Maybe I won't have anything on here that not well enough for you guys all to see. I want to share with you this. This is something new inside of Profile Manager. It hasn't been talked about. It came out about 3 weeks ago. We haven't blown it out or anything as far as release notes or anything, but I just wanted to point out to you. Now, this is not, I'm not inside of a Profile Manager. I just took a couple of screenshots here. So, but inside of Profile Manager, we have actually put a print button inside of Profile Manager. Back a couple of months ago, this idea was mentioned to me. I believe it was up in Northwest Georgia, RESA, when we were having a meeting with some data folks up there. They were talking about how many roles now they had inside of Profile Manager, and it would be nice if there was some way to be able to print this. So we put a print button on here, but the print button will kick you over to a SQL Server report mechanism, so you can actually run a report of the roles that you have inside of Profile Manager and which applications are turned on and which level of application you're turned on. Just to mention to you, like for example, growth model here is set up with, it doesn't have a level on it. That's because the growth model doesn't have level propriety on there. You turn on growth model and it's available to all level users for that. But you can actually come in here. You can click on the, let me scroll back 1 second. You can click on the drop down here, which is this screen, and you can select just a particular role that you want to do, or by default, it shows all of the roles. But if you wanted to just select a few roles, you could do that. And then you can always hit the export button and export this little report out to either Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. You can do it to any of these other options. So you could always export your roles out to Excel or CSV and go from there. So hopefully that will help with you guys monitoring and managing your profiles inside of Profile Manager. Okay, man, this is kind of strange not having feedback from you guys. I oftentimes work off of feedback a lot, so kind of strange not having feedback. But I'm just unshared my screen, so we covered that one. Also wanted to talk to you a few minutes about Counselor Companion, and which is Georgia of the GCIS and soon the U Science. And specifically, I want to talk to you about alternative schools. Currently, alternative schools are not set up inside a Counselor Companion. That is on the backlog, and we hope that will happen at some point in time. So, you know, that alternative high school that you have in your district, that the counselors maybe they keep hammering you about, hey, they need access to the counselor companion and GCIS and eventually UScience. That will be coming somewhere down the road, but right now that team in the all of the counselor companion side, the CTAE folks and all, they're working real hard on getting UScience integrated into counselor companion. Some of you may not be aware, but UScience has some great aptitude assessments on there for high school and now for middle school students. And since aptitude is one of the new requirements in not just in Bridge Law, but some new requirements that 8th grade and 10th grade students have to have an aptitude test. So we're integrating UScience into the counselor companion window like we did with GCIS last year, so that when a counselor goes into SLDS and goes into counselor companion, then the results from GCIS are currently there, but we're integrating UScience. So any of the aptitude tests that a student took or any other things that a student took in UScience will actually show up on the counselor companion screen. The team feels like that, the developing team and the CTAE team feels like that's a higher priority for the most users out here, rather than delaying that any further and trying to get the alternative schools. Because the alternative schools, although it's not pretty, they do have the option of being able to log in through each of their high schools or each of their middle schools. They can still log in that way and see those students from the home school. So since there is a workaround, even though it's ugly, even though it may not be real efficient, the developing team decided that the highest priority is integrating UScience into the counselor companion screen. So hopefully that gives you some idea, some answers to your alternative schools when they ask questions or so forth. Hopefully that gives you some information as to how to respond to them. But I've asked for an ETA on the other. I can't get an ETA. They just they'll work on it when they get this other part done. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say I'm guessing Christmas, maybe January, but don't hold me to that. But that's just my personal opinion. All right. So if you have questions about that, put them in the chat box. Again, Jesse's monitoring that, so he'll interrupt me if there's a pressing question about any of those things.
Hubert, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Would you look at Troy Palmer's question or statement about the multiple schools program across multiple schools?
About what?
Troy Palmer says, in addition to alternative schools, we have a similar issue with SLDS users who serve students in a program across multiple schools because they cannot view students by their program in SLDS.
That's alternative school. Any of the programs, the 6,000 number schools, that's not sure what you guys may call them, but those are still called alternative schools or alternative programs. If it's a real school, it works fine because that's how they come through. If it's a real non-6,000 program. So, Troy, if that doesn't fully explain that, pop in another question, but that's how I'm understanding your question. Just to reiterate, if it's a 6,000 program, they will not have access to it. Now, with this talking about the 6,000, that also brings up another issue about the GNETs facilities. Okay, GNETs are all 6,000s, but GNETs they bring a whole different dilemma to the problem in that they're cross districts. So that makes it that makes it even more difficult for them to be there because of our security levels, how we put in things, to keep students from not being able to be seen at another school or at another district. Kind of the GNETS facilities go against all of those kind of protections that we built in. So every single application has to be fine-tuned and tweaked just to allow access to the GNETs. And then a lot of testing has to be done to make sure that what tweaks and adjustments we make for the GNETs doesn't, create a hole for all the others. So, so even when we get Counselor Companion done for the programs, the regular 6,000 learning centers, or any other kind of alternative setting, my guess is that there might be even a little longer delay for the GNETS facilities solely because of the special precautions that we have to go through to maintain FERPA. So if that doesn't answer your question fully, Troy, let me know. Speaking of the GNETs, that actually brings up another question that has actually popped up on the chat box, but was also on the agenda. It's when is GNETs going to get access to TEKS and LEAKS? That also is on the enhancement list. It will be worked on, but the highest priority from the TEKS and LEAKS team is getting the reporting features as robust as the districts and the school and the teachers want the TEKS LEAKS program. They have, to my knowledge, they have released some reporting features inside of TEKS already, but they're still working on many other reporting parts of the TEKS LEAKS. So that's because that affects thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I mean, there's 110,000 teachers in the state and another 30, 35, 40,000 administrators. So the reporting part affects all of them. And it was decided by the TEKS team that was the highest priority because it had the most impact to the most, it had impact to the most users. GNETs will be worked on, but because of the what I was saying just a few minutes ago about all the precautions that we have to jump through on every application, but TEKS, GNETs will be given access to TEKS at some point in time. That is statewide. It's not, so, if a GNETs facility is hammering you, they need access to it. Hey, no GNETs facilities have access to it yet. So it's not like your GNETs is behind the curve because they're the same as every other GNETs facility across the state. So, personally, I would not jump through a lot of hoops trying to find some workaround for them, because if I personally would be afraid that whatever kind of workaround I did, I might be causing some issues later on down the road. They will get access to it. TEKS folks know that they don't have access to it now, so I don't want to speak for them, but I would assume since the TEKS people know that GNETs doesn't have access to it, there would be some leeway or something granted there. But I don't know that they want to make that official or anything, but GNETs will have access, but they just don't have it right now. Hopefully that helps. I don't know that it does. I don't know that's the answer that you guys are wanting, but that is, that's with the GNETs. Now, with saying that finishes the few things that I wanted to share with you guys. Jesse, if there's any other questions on there, now's a great time to interject those. If not, guys, if you have a question, you might want to unmute your phone and get ready to ask questions. So, Jesse, are there questions in the chat box?
Pretty much only one I've answered on there was about the time frame of when the student class files and the student record files are being processed. And it's around 2 o'clock every morning. And of course, and I put in the chat box, in the recent weeks we've had a few issues with the processing times of student class and student records, and sometimes they didn't finish until like 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning. Of course, that affected SLDS teacher rosters from being updated that night. So hopefully they've got that corrected at DOE now. But generally it's around 2 o'clock each morning is when those files are processed. So, and the other thing was about the Access IEP link.
Yes.
And we're amazed sometimes, just like I finally got power back last night in the middle of the night, but we are amazed that sometimes when things are missing, how important they actually become. And this is really evident in the Access IEP link. Sometimes we didn't think people were actually looking at that, but boy, people have been very upset over that little link. But I just got confirmation back with Linda Castellanos, and she said they are meeting today actually to go and see what the status of that Access IEP link is on the student profile page. And of course that happened when the Go IEP version went to 2.0 a few weeks ago. So that's catching up to date and looking at one. Rita just posted one here. Do you see that one?
Let me go down to the bottom.
She says she was getting late coming to the meeting, and we haven't discussed it about my pairs cannot get into TEKS, although they all have SLDS and TEKS school level access. They're getting them an error telling them they do not have access. Is it my problem or HR problems? And Hubert, I know you can probably go through the few little steps where the most common issues with that.
Right. If now she doesn't say the magic words, but I'm assuming, Rita, that is the access denied issue. If that is the case, there are 4 reasons why you get access denied. And again, Rita, if this doesn't address your specific question, then we can maybe go offline. But the 4 reasons why a user of any kind, not just parapros, but any user gets access denied in TEKS is what we suggest you to do is check and make sure you have a social security number inside of the student information system. That's number 1. Number 2, check and make sure the social security number inside of your student information is exactly the same inside of the TEKS application. You won't believe how many phone conversations I've had with people and say, oh, yeah, it's the same, it's the same, it's the same. But then when they physically go in there and look at it, it might be off 1 digit or something. They have to be exactly the same. The third reason the third thing we tell people to do is check to make sure the user's profile has been checked by the super user in the TEKS application, which you would think that would be an HR issue. They have to go in there and check whichever box they are, whether they're a teacher, contributing professional, or something. That has to be done, or they get the access denied issue. And then number 4, check to make sure that an account is in TEKS at the same school that the user is logging into from your student information system. In other words, if they're inside of Power School or Infinite Campus or Aspen or eSchool or whatever student information system you're in, if they're in, let's just say Westside Elementary, and they hit the SLDS button, then inside of TEKS, they have to be assigned to Westside Elementary. If inside of the TEKS application, they're assigned to, let's just say, Northside Elementary, they're going to get the access denied error because those 2 schools are not lining up with each other. So just make sure those 4 things. I have a little blurb that I can send back to you. If you have a question about it, you can shoot me an email and I'll send you those four little things back to you in an email. So just let us know. But those are the only 4 reasons we have found that they get the access denied issue. Okay. Hope that answers the question. If not, Rita, let us know. Okay, good. All right. Any other questions in there, Jesse? If not, anybody on the phone have a question? Silence is golden, I suppose, unless your microphones aren't working. So,
Hey, Hubert, one thing I thought about, I don't know if you touched on it, but again, it's been around for a while in the Profile Manager. To remind people, please do not forget the ability to copy an existing role. I know it's been there for a while, but some people still do not take advantage of that. And it's a nice feature so you do not have to click all those little check boxes in Profile Managers when you're creating a new role.
Yeah. There's a short video on our webinar session thing that you can look at. And it's, thanks, Rita. Rita just sent in a message. She's used it all the time and she loves it. Rita Fricks from Rockdale. It saves some time. And while speaking of talking about Profile Manager, what I have found, guys, and I use Chrome most of the time these days, sometimes Profile Manager will error out using Chrome. Now, I'm not saying to use Firefox every time you do Profile Manager, but if you get an issue, if you're using Firefox, fine. But if you're using Chrome and you get an error, then you might want to just jump over into Firefox and see about there. If you have issues in Firefox, give me a holler, because I haven't heard anyone right now. Browsers are always subject to change, but right now Firefox seems to be a little more stable from a Profile Manager perspective. Okay. While some of you guys are maybe thinking about questions, I did want to share my screen one more time, because I want to share with you something. Hopefully you guys can see this screen of Dundee School. You might be wondering, all the trainers introduced themselves earlier. I wanted to share with you how to get in touch with us. If you don't know, I mean, I think most of you have my email address and probably Jesse's, but you may not know specifically how to get a hold of Celeste or John or Sandy or Sabine or whatever. Inside of SLDS, and hopefully my screen is showing here, if you go to Help and Training link, then all of the trainers' names, if you scroll down just a little bit, all the trainers' names, email addresses, and phone numbers are right here. Now, the territories are not here, but hopefully the more you become familiar and aware of the trainer for your designated area, you'll know. And hopefully, if you haven't talked to the trainer, shoot them an email, letter of introduction or something like that. If when they were talking about visiting maybe your area of the woods, over the next few weeks, if you have some questions about that, shoot them an email. It's right there. It's off of that Help and Training link inside of SLDS, so it's always there. Also want to mention to you, just in case, you see this webinar link on the Help and Training page. This is where this session I'm going to record, and it will go on this webinar page, and it'll go down into this support area down here in the bottom. Now, notice, Jesse talked about the cloning feature and all, and I told you, I said there was a recording here. It's 3 minutes and 45 seconds long. So that SLDS webinars is where you can come in here. This session will be recorded, and it'll be put down here as well. One other little piece of thing that I wanted to know is we had good turnout today. I'm just wondering how often you guys, or if you guys would want to do something like this again. If so, how frequently and so forth. We don't want to cause problems or interrupt your day any more than necessary. So if this is beneficial to you, we want to make it available to you, but we just need to know. So if you have an opinion now, feel free to share it. If not, shoot me an email. Kind of let me know what's going on. As you know, this is completely voluntary. So if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to. But we will try to. If we do others, we will try to record it and put it there on that webinar link. So any questions? I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak if they have something.
Yeah, Hubert, check the chat box. I'll read it to you. Michelle says, for the gifted forms, there is a part that says administrator. Who is the administrator, i.e. current administrator or the one who issued the test?
There is no state answer for that. That was put in several years ago in the gifted solely because it was requested. I know some districts use the administrator as the school principal's name, which is perfectly fine. It is not for our purpose, so we do not dictate who that administrator is because we do understand that some districts, they require their school level principal to be part of the team. If so, then you can use that. I know probably at least half of the districts that I'm aware of just uses the administrator as being the lead, the district person that's over gifted. That's perfectly fine. So Michelle, the answer is whatever your district decides to use in that spot. You can use it however you like.
Okay. Hubert, we have one from Sunshine Williamson. Says, do we have an update on the foster care students and when they will be uploaded in the SLDS?
Okay, the last update I have heard, and I'm making myself a note here, okay, and if you heard me typing, the last I heard is that in SLDS, we have it, technically we have it ready to be put in there, but we have not gotten a regular flow of data from foster kids folks. So for those of you that aren't aware, eventually we've been working with the foster kids to have inside of SLDS some indication as to whether the child is in foster care or has been in foster care this year, since that is that could be an ever-changing process. We do not want to put anything in there until we have a regular flow of data. In other words, we don't want to put something in there now and it's going to be static for the next 4 months, and you guys become reliant on that and the data is 4 months old. So the last I heard is the foster kids people would be ready in April to put this out here. And we kind of went back to them and said, hey, April's a long time off. So we're trying to get that much sooner than that. But again, we don't want to put it in there if it's going to be static. We want it to be dynamic, at least dynamic every 2 weeks. We would prefer to have it more dynamic than that, but we don't want to put some set of data in there and then it become old.
Hey, Rita has a follow-up question, but I think we might work with her. You can work with her offline about the PEACS access.
Okay.
You can you can read that. Let me say this. I don't know how many Power School districts are on the call right now, but this is addressed the cookie issue in the browser that came back, I guess, back in June when they did some updates to SLDS, the SQL Server 2016. But it's the cookies issues inside of Power School. Infinite Campus has theirs fixed maybe 2 months ago. But just recently, we have access now to a test server in Gainesville City Schools, and so we will be working with Power School and DOE to take care of the cookie issues for the browser, so it will not remember the users. And right now, if you have to deal with that, you have to log out, close out the browser, restart the browser to go back in, so it doesn't remember those cookies. Or you can go and clear some of the cookie information in the browser too. But again, just to let you know that that is being worked on, and hope we'll have some progress here hopefully soon.
And again, that's with Power School. Infinite Campus has already been resolved because we were able to get a sandbox server to where we could test some things on it a little bit quicker. But that does seem to be affecting a lot of things. I haven't heard from districts like eSchool or Aspen or whatever to see if they still have the issue. I'm guessing they do, but I haven't heard specifically from any of those. So, Sunshine, you're saying that that Infinite Campus is back to having issues with holding the thing? I see that as a comment. If so, let's talk afterwards and get. If some of you Infinite Campus folks, if you have noticed that it seems like it has returned the holding in your cookies, from a login, then we would love to hear that. So maybe what we did as a fix didn't fix it long term. So just let us know. And I responded to Rita about her question. Any other questions, guys? Okay, thanks, Josh. Okay, thanks, Angie. So it looks like Infinite Campus may have come back. So we'll kind of look at that and see. Several years ago when it came out of HTML5, they thought it was going to solve a lot of these problems, but it seemed like not. It seemed like it's just created even more obstacles. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Again, please let me know your opinion as to whether we should and if so, if we want to do these again, how often do we want to do them? Okay, thanks, Jennifer, with eSchool. So it looks like we still have a problem there with eSchool. Okay. Guys, as always, holler at us if we can be of any help. We're here to. That's our goal, is to help you as much as possible. So if no other questions or comments,
Hey, Hubert.
Yes.
Hubert?
Yes.
I thought I might just say, while you've got all these data people here, that not to be surprised on some of the emails where we're confirming our visits with our schools. You might find that you're included in one of those emails and you suddenly don't know why. Part of what we're trying to do is be more cognizant in the fact that it's helpful for you all to get an idea of when we're visiting one of your district schools. So it was suggested by Hubert that we might keep you guys in the loop. So don't be surprised if you get an email that's actually originally scheduled to go to the principal confirming a visit, but you've been CC'd on it out of courtesy, just to let you know that we're in your area. And, I just thought it was worth mentioning in case some of you start getting emails and don't really understand why you're being kept in the loop on those.
Thanks, Sabine. Yeah, that is something I suggested to the trainers to do, just to keep you guys in the loop. So if you have a problem with that, just, holler at me. Don't holler at them. So we want to be transparent. We want to be helpful however we can. Thanks. Anything from anybody? Again, love to have your feedback as to what you think about this. So look forward to talking to you guys. See you real soon. Take care.